Sometimes giving a Pokemon just a single new move can change everything and affect not just the viability of that Pokemon, but the entire metagame surrounding it. Can be completely warped and shifted into something else. There are many examples of innocent, singular moves being added to a Pokemon's moveset that have disastrous ramifications and ripple effects that were incalculable by the developers. Why don't we take a look at the single most impactful new move addition in every generation of Pokemon. In Generation 2, various new moves were added to the game and granted to Pokemon that had a massive impact. Many Pokemon learned the new move Sleep Talk, which is central to Gen 2, allowing Pokemon to execute a random move in their moveset while sleeping. This was significant and completely changed the pace and power level of absolutely everything in this format. Rapid Spin and Spikes were introduced, a hazard and a form of hazard removal. This had a massive impact on certain Pokemon, like Cloyster and Furret, both of which get Spikes and Rapid Spin. And of course the new move Curse was introduced to the game. An incredible new option on many Pokemon. If you are a Ghost type and you use Curse, you will cut your HP in half and inflict a powerful damage over time effect against the enemy. But if you are not a Ghost type, instead Curse will be a boosting move, granting you +1 attack and defense at the cost of -1 speed. And this is a pretty outstanding boosting move. Even to this day, many Pokemon still use Curse. It was a very significant new addition in Gen 2. And even though you lose speed, some Pokemon are slow anyway and don't really mind losing the speed. It's a small price to pay for that incredible attack and defense boost. And by far the most significant benefactor of Curse was Snorlax. This single moveset addition on Snorlax probably had the highest metagame impact in Gen 2 than any other single moveset addition in the game. Snorlax gaining Curse made it the best Pokemon in the whole game by far. Snorlax is the perfect Curse boost sweeper. It doesn't care whatsoever about speed, it's already extremely slow. And it has incredible special defense and HP, meaning the only downside to it defensively is its low 65 defense. Curse boosting its defense turns it into an indestructible blob that is also dishing out some of the highest damage output ever. A Curse boosted Snorlax is the most frightening thing of all time in Gen 2, and is metagame defining. You need a response to this, if not multiple responses to this, or you will just lose immediately. And I would say that Curse Snorlax is the center of this metagame. Everything revolves around Curse Snorlax. It's all about Curse Snorlax. An extraordinary metagame impact indeed from a simple, singular moveset addition. And you might be wondering, folks, is there a spiritual debt that Snorlax had to pay for utilizing a curse for his own advantage, selling his soul to the devil effectively? And yes, there was. Snorlax achieved ultimate power in Gen 2 for a fleeting moment before having his dreams shattered in the next generation, falling significantly in viability, and getting worse and worse over time, now ranked all the way in the ZU tier in Gen 9, the lowest possible tier a Pokemon can be ranked in. From the absolute top of Mount Olympus down to the depths of hell, Snorlax has fallen, all because of the Faustian bargain he made in Gen 2, utilizing a curse for a competitive advantage. You should not have bargained with such evil, Snorlax, for just a moment of glory. It was not worth it, Snorlax. It was not worth it at all. Now, folks, in Gen 3, what was the most significant new moveset addition? There are many to choose from. A big one that you're probably thinking of is Tyranitar getting Dragon Dance, an all-new boosting move that turned it into a very powerful threat. Certainly a very central Tyranitar set and a big metagame impact, undoubtedly. Suicune receiving Calm Mind was certainly a massive one. Suicune didn't have Calm Mind in Gen 2 and was far worse, but this simple addition turned Suicune into a monster and one of the most powerful boost sweepers in the format. An incredible Pokemon as a result of this simple addition. I would also say that Will-O-Wisp was a massive new addition that buffed Gengar significantly. Gengar already amazing, of course, but the addition of Will-O-Wisp to its moveset made it famously difficult to switch in against for most Pokemon in the whole game. An extraordinary buff. But above all of these, I think that one new moveset addition stands tall as the most impactful. And that was Skarmory receiving the new option of Spikes. In Gen 2, Skarmory could not set spikes, and it was still very good anyway, because of its amazing defense, fantastic steel flying typing, and the ability to wall physical attackers like nothing else. Skarmory still has all of those advantages, but now it has spikes at its disposal, an incredible way to leverage its defense for permanent progress. Spikes is the best move in Gen 3, I would say. It is an entry hazard that damages grounded foes on switch-in and can be stacked now in Gen 3 up to 3 layers. The value of setting spikes on the field is outstanding, damaging the enemy every single time they switch in with anything grounded. I think spikes are more central to Gen 3 than any boost like Dragon Dance or Calm Mind. Spikes have a much higher impact, and much of the game centers around spikes, eliminating spikes with rapid spin, maintaining spikes with a spin blocker like Gengar, ignoring spikes with Pokemon that can fly or levitate. Spikes dictate what is good and what is not good, more than any other single move. And Skarmory is by far the most powerful of all spikes users in this generation with its outstanding defensive qualities. It itself is immune to spikes, thanks to being flying type. It's immune to being poisoned, it's immune to ground type damage, immune to Dugtrio trapping it. Its defenses are truly incredible. I don't think any single moveset addition was as impactful as Skarmory receiving spikes in Gen 3. The whole metagame kind of revolves around Skarmory's spikes, honestly, more so than anything else. Now we move on to Gen 4, a generation full of incredible moveset additions. Some of the most powerful new moves ever released were from Gen 4, like Stealth Rock, new entry hazard that deals damage based on rock weakness. The most powerful new move added to Gen 4, and overall the most impactful, but it's hard to point to any single Stealth Rock user. There's too many viable ones to really point to it. Definitely the most notable new move, but no particular Stealth Rock user stands out, in my opinion, as that impactful compared to any other ones. It's a very widely distributed move. There was also U-Turn, which buffed many Pokemon significantly. U-Turn, a new bug-type physical attack that can pivot, deals damage, and then switches you out. Great to gain information and keep up momentum while dealing damage. One of the strongest moves in Pokemon history. Still used all the time to this day. Some notable U-Turn benefactors would be Flygon, who became much better as a result of getting U-Turn. Also Scizor, who has Stab U-Turn, which is incredible. The new move Draco Meteor was massive, a powerful new dragon-type special attack, significantly buffing Pokemon like Dragonite and Flygon. It was a massive buff to Salamence as well, who ended up Ubers due to multiple noteworthy buffs. Scizor also received the new option of Bullet Punch, a priority steel type attack that pushed it far further in viability than any other moveset addition it got. That was massive for Scizor, alongside its ability Technician, which boosts the power of Bullet Punch further. But I'm sure you probably guessed what I was going to choose for Gen 4 from the beginning. If you've ever played this format, that is. The most significant new moveset addition for my money would be Iron Head on Jirachi, a new move that absolutely changed the whole metagame and turned Jirachi into the strongest thing of all time. Iron Head is a steel-type physical attack with 80 power and a 30% chance to flinch, and it receives a boost from the ability Serene Grace, doubling that flinch chance to now 60%, which is ludicrous. It is more likely to be flinched than not by Jirachi's Iron Head. And Jirachi can infamously pair this with Body Slam or Thunder Wave to inflict paralysis on opponents and enhance the chance of inaction dramatically, with paralysis and a 60% flinch inflicted on the opponent. Jirachi with Iron Head is insanely strong, and it mandates that you have a physically defensive steel resist on every single team that can safely 1v1 Jirachi, or you will simply just lose in an instant to Jirachi Iron Heading your whole team and without you being able to do anything about it. Jirachi receiving Iron Head was considered by many to be a huge mistake. When Oppenheimer did this, he did not realize the generational impact it would have and the terrible consequences, but he should have known. He should have known it from the beginning, Oppenheimer. Jirachi with Iron Head, of course, not only just ridiculously powerful on its own merits, able to sometimes cheese battles completely and power through even steel resistances with the sheer likelihood of flinching repeatedly. Also, a moveset addition that dictates what is viable in the format. If you don't have a response to the Jirachi Paraflinch strategy, you are a fake gamer. You will lose, and that is exactly what I'm talking about. A simple, singular moveset addition that has ripple effects felt throughout time. Now, Gen 5 is a generation known more for significant ability additions rather than moves, like Politoed receiving Drizzle, Dragonite receiving Multiscale, etc. The new hidden abilities were a big deal, but there were some moveset additions that were massive too. The most notable of all was Scald, I think, in terms of a general moveset addition that impacted the game. Scald was a new special attack in Gen 5, a water type special attack with 80 power and a 30% burn chance. An incredible way to spread burn while dealing good damage at the same time, and kind of invalidating water resistances, because even if you switch in and tank the hit, the risk of burn is so incredible that you're still in danger, even then. But I think Scald is too much of a widespread buff to all water types to name any particular Scald user that got that much better. Politoed got it, Tentacruel got it, Keldeo came into existence in Gen 5 and also had it. Just about every water type got the move. So it's more of a universal buff to the whole water type. There was also Psyshock, which was quite a big deal. Psyshock, a novel new move that was a special attack that hit the enemy based on defense, with a psychic typing to it. Alakazam receiving this move was significant, allowing it to actually threaten special walls, who tend to have low defense, so Alakazam could threaten Chansey and Blissey now with big damage, potentially. And Gen 5 also introduced perhaps the most powerful boosting move in the history of the Pokemon franchise. Shell Smash. This is an insanely powerful move that raises your attack, special attack, and speed by 2 stages in a single turn. That is a massive, sharp increase to your stats. In both departments too, attack and special attack. Now there is a cost to this. Your defense and special defense are lowered by 1 stage each, but that is a small price to pay for the incredible offensive boost that Shell Smash provides. And the greatest benefactor of Shell Smash was Cloyster. Cloyster, a pretty bad Pokemon in just the last generation of Gen 4. It did receive the new buff of Skill Link, an offensive ability allowing its multi-hit attacks to always hit the maximum number of times. Very good, but not enough to make Cloyster that fantastic or anything, but Shell Smash really pushed this Pokemon over the edge. And in fact, Cloyster eventually had to be banned from OU because it was too powerful. In a single turn, Cloyster could outrun the whole metagame and threaten them with the incredible damage of its stab-boosted Icicle Spear, which hits the maximum number of times every time. And this is crucial because since it's a multi-hit attack, it bypasses certain safety nets like Focus Sash and Sturdy, which would allow you to live a hit from full from any boost sweeper. Not if you're attacking multiple times though, so Cloyster totally bypasses that. It bypasses any Pokemon with a substitute up, because the first hit breaks the substitute, and then the rest of them just attack the Pokemon directly. It also breaks Dragonite's Multiscale. Multiscale halves incoming damage if you're at full, but the first hit will break the Multiscale, and then the additional hits will achieve lethal force. Cloyster also had the coverage of Rock Blast to hit other things that resist ice for big neutral damage, also operate as pretty good coverage, and even Ice Shard for priority. And since you also receive a special attack boost, you could run Hidden Power Grass to hit water-type physical walls like Slowbro, which was starting to be used as a response to Cloyster. You could just run Hydro Pump as a big water-type special attack, which dealt impressive damage with the Shell Smash boost. Cloyster did not really have a clean answer that was reasonable to run on most teams. With its diverse attacking options and the fact that Shell Smash just boosts both offensive stats, it's hard to actually respond to this reliably with anything. And it was particularly bad when gems were legal, consumable items that boost the power of a move once, because with a rock gem, you could just power through almost any defensive water type and kill them easily in a single hit like Politoed or Tentacruel. Just ridiculous levels of damage output and no reliable defensive answer in the whole game for Cloyster. Even though Cloyster is banned now, this guy was a cornerstone of hyper-offense teams and a massive threat for years that defined the format significantly. And it's one of the greatest single-move buffs a Pokemon has ever received, turning a otherwise bad Pokemon into a Ubers-level monster instantly with just a single new move. I also would like to say, folks, that I've just realized I misused the word benefactor earlier. I was supposed to say beneficiary, which means that you've benefited from something. Whereas a benefactor is somebody providing the benefit. I would like to sincerely apologize for this embarrassing blunder, and I will never mix up these two words ever again in the future. Never. They should have called it something more clear, like benefit receiver. That would have been easier to understand and not mix up. Like benefit getter. Should have called it that, but they called it beneficiary to sound fancy when you receive money from John D. Rockefeller or something. You're a beneficiary. Aren't you good? Now, of course, Gen 6 is known for some of the most significant move buffs in the series' history. Knockoff being the biggest, now having a higher power and a bonus damage effect. But it would be wrong to name a knockoff user like Weavile or Bishop as the subjects of this video, because in truth these guys already had the move knockoff. The move itself was just buffed. I'm talking about moveset additions, new moves received, not prior moves buffed. These are different things, I would say. There was also, of course, defog, but most Pokemon already had defog, and then defog was buffed to now remove hazards from the field. So it would also be wrong to call this a moveset addition. It would be difficult not to mention the whole fairy type being added to the game, and therefore fairy type attacks being added. Moonblast is an amazing new special attack with 95 power and a 30% special attack drop chance attached. Very, very good. And Clefable received this move in Gen 6. A pretty big deal that turned Clefable into a much better Pokemon. Now the bigger deal here is that it became a fairy type, but receiving Moonblast was also important. So you could call that a noteworthy moveset addition for certain. In the same vein, Azumarill receiving Play Rough was quite significant, as Azumarill now gained a fairy typing, and with Play Rough, its offensive potency was enhanced, now with a super effective option against dragon types and fighting types and dark types. All very important and very strong to attack lethally. I also would like to give a rare shout out to Exploud. And I would like to apologize to Exploud Nation, who I have angered in a previous video. The Hoenn special video, I stated that Exploud does not do anything beyond Gen 3. This is false. Because in Gen 6, Exploud received the new move, Boom Burst. It's actually a really good move. It's a normal type special attack with 140 power. A simple move, but it just deals a lot of damage. And Exploud now had access to this move, alongside the ability Scrappy, which allows it to hit ghost types with normal moves. This was actually a pretty big buff for Exploud. Now, Exploud did not become OU or anything, still suffering from poor stats. But Exploud was pretty good in the middle to low tiers as a result of receiving Boom Burst. So for some people, this was a significant new moveset addition. For Exploud gang, it was Christmas for them. It was a massive, there was fireworks and confetti everywhere for the Exploud community. They were all very pleased at Exploud receiving a slight buff. So my apologies to Exploud and all of his supporters. But of course, we could scarcely call that the most significant new moveset addition. The guy was not even OU or anything. Of all new moves introduced in Gen 6, I think Sticky Web was the most significant, an all-new entry hazard. Sticky Web is an entry hazard that lowers the speed of grounded foes by 1 on switching. And this is very powerful. Mostly bug types got this new move too, which gave bugs a reason to exist in competitive, because they could set sticky webs on the field. It's an incredible hazard for offense teams, meaning that you are often faster than the opponent, and your slow, bulky attackers are also enhanced by often outrunning the opponent as well when they otherwise wouldn't. And of all new sticky web receivers, I think that you would have to give immense respect to Shuckle in particular, who received sticky web, which was a massive buff for him. Shuckle is the best sticky web setter in Gen 6 thanks to its great defenses, meaning it can survive most incoming hits, as well as the insurance of the ability Sturdy, allowing it to survive from full HP and always live on at least 1 HP, which means it can always set sticky web with no risk, which is very important. On top of that, since it does not have to hold a focus sash, since Sturdy has the same effect as focus sash, it can hold the mental herb, which will cure it of taunt a single time, so it can't even be taunted to block its sticky web setting. Plus, it also has Stealth Rock and Encore and other good utility, making it a great sticky web setter with multi-use cases. Everybody give Shuckle a round of applause for being useful to people. Very, very impressive. Shuckle is genuinely good in Gen 6 OU as a sticky web hyper-offense enabler, and I think in future it persists as the best sticky web setter available when there's competition in the role. I would call this the most significant new moveset addition, an archetype-defining new move that significantly buffed the Pokemon Shuckle to competitive relevance. Gen 7 had some powerful new moveset additions, but the focus was more on Z moves in this generation. There was nothing crazy like prior gens. Leech Life was buffed to now have 80 power and be a far better move, but to be honest, no older Pokemon really benefited from this very much. The main Leech Life user of Gen 7 is Buzzwole, who is a new Pokemon in Gen 7, so that scarcely counts. An often forgotten new moveset addition that I thought happened far earlier was actually Lucario receiving Meteor Mash. This happened in Gen 7, and it was most notable on the powerful Mega Lucario, who's one of the strongest Megas. Mega Lucario, of course, has fantastic offensive stats and the adaptability for further damage. And Meteor Mash was an incredible new option for Steel Stab, a 90 power attack with a 20% attack raise chance. A great new option, making Mega Lucario a genuine threat in Gen 7 Ubers more than it already was. Gen 7 also had big new moveset additions for lower tier Pokemon. The Pokemon Vileplume received one of the strongest moves in the game, Strength Sap, which is an incredible utility move that lowers the enemy's attack and then heals your Pokemon based on how high the enemy's attack is, often fully healing your Pokemon. It is a very sought after move that is extremely rare, and Vileplume was blessed with it, giving Vileplume a bit more merit. Of course, it's still low tier, and this has no impact on higher tiers, but it has impact on Vileplume's life, and that's about as valuable as anything. I think that's valuable. Various Pokemon also got Quiver Dance in Gen 7, a previously extremely rare option, scarcely distributed. But in Gen 7, absolutely everything changed and the world shook to its very core when Bellossom received Quiver Dance, an earth-shattering moment for everybody. Just kidding, this was a low-impact moment for most, but for the ZU tier in Gen 7 it was a shake-up, turning Bellossom now into a boost sweeper when it previously wasn't. And Masquerain also received the move, the biggest buff Masquerain had received in years. You can see that I'm grasping at straws here when it comes to Gen 7 moveset additions. There really weren't many noteworthy ones, honestly, since the emphasis was more on Z moves in this generation. And my choice here for the most noteworthy new moveset addition of Gen 7 is kind of a boring one, and that is the addition of Defog to Landorus Therian's moveset. Many Defog users already had the move generations ago and benefited from it in Gen 6 when the move was buffed. But Landorus Therian was actually given Defog in Gen 7, it didn't have it before. And Landorus Therian getting Defog was a pretty massive deal. This Pokemon was already amazing, of course, with its great stats, great typing, great ability, great move pool, all of the advantages it has. It has Stealth Rock and Pivoting and a hard-hitting Earthquake and all sorts of things. But now it can also remove hazards. Landorus Therian officially being able to do everything had a pretty big impact on the format. Even though it's a boring addition, it was a high-impact one that meant Landorus Therian truly had a monopoly on all utility, and having such a good Defog user had a significant impact, allowing you to support allies that hate Stealth Rocks much better, making hazard removal that much easier. In Gen 8, there are actually a lot of significant new moveset additions that we can speak about. One of the most noteworthy new moves in Gen 8 was Body Press, a fighting type attack that deals damage based on the user's defense stat rather than their usual attack stat, and it has a fighting typing. This allowed physically defensive Pokemon to dish out real damage and was pretty big, although I will say that Corviknight was probably the most significant user of it. And we can't call that a moveset addition when the Pokemon came into existence in the same generation that the move did. Some older Pokemon that got the move include Skarmory, which was a good addition for it, but it still felt outclassed by Corviknight, so it wasn't super impactful for its career. And there was Torkoal as well, who is still okay as a Sun Setter, and has a high defense stat with which to use Body Press. Not the best Pokemon in Gen 8 OU though, where Sun was not a fantastic strategy. So pretty impactful move overall, and it had a higher impact still in Gen 9, but you're not quite feeling that impact in Gen 8 in terms of a new moveset addition on an older Pokemon. The move Flip Turn was also added to the game in Gen 8 OU, a pretty significant new addition, a 60 power water type attack with a pivoting effect like U-Turn. The power is a bit lower than U-Turn, but water is a much better offensive type, and a bunch of water types got the move. I think most notably of all, Barraskewda became way better as a result of having Flip Turn and became probably the most popular Swift Swim physical attacker in the tier with Flip Turn. Barraskewda could deal incredible damage with this move in the rain and then pivot to whatever it wanted. An outstanding combination of massive damage output and momentum all at once. Very impactful, and part of the reason that rain is so good is purely because Barraskewda got Flip Turn. Primarina also got the move Flip Turn, which was significant for it, giving it a niche in Gen 8 for the first time in a while, and some value over Tapu Fini, who does not get Flip Turn, the ability to pivot being quite significant. The new Ice-type attack Triple Axle was also added to the game in Gen 8, and this was a big one. This is a pretty unique move. It's an Ice-type attack that hits 3 times, and for each consecutive hit the power rises. So it starts at 20 power, but then the power increments every time, and it ends up dealing pretty incredible damage with a multi-hit effect on top. But each of the hits can miss, which is a drawback. Each individual hit of the move has a 10% miss chance. But still, this was a pretty fantastic new option on Weavile in particular, who really became one of the top Pokemon of Gen 8 OU, partially due to this new option of Triple Axle, which was quite excellent for it. And the Pokemon Kyurem also received multiple significant moveset additions. One of them was Freeze Dry, a powerful new option, which is an Ice-type special attack with 70 power, that is now super effective against water rather than being resistant against water. This made Kyurem significantly better as a special wall breaker with less options to switch in and resist its powerful Ice Stab. And it's part of the reason the Pokemon was banned to Ubers. Definitely a significant one. And Kyurem also received the new option of Dragon Dance. And by extension, so did Kyurem's black form, since they are the same species. Dragon Dance was massive for Kyurem Black. This is a Pokemon that was actually ranked OU in past generations, despite its amazing legendary level stats, due to the fact that it had no good boosting options and a pretty shallow move pool. Nothing to really take good advantage of this attack. But now it has Dragon Dance, significantly enhancing its offensive potency, turning it into a real threat. Not only did it receive Dragon Dance, it also received Icicle Spear, which might not seem that amazing. It's just an Ice-type multi-hit attack that's a little bit unreliable even, due to the variance in only being able to hit 2 to 5 times per turn randomly. But Kyurem Black prior to this had no physical Ice Stab besides Freeze Shock, which is a charge move, and wasn't very good. Icicle Spear now allowed Kyurem Black to actually attack things with its main type for big physical damage. And this alongside Dragon Dance was such a massive buff that Kyurem Black became Uber, and it became good in Uber actually. And it still is in Gen 9. These buffs were so significant that it's actually one of the stronger boost sweepers of modern Ubers. And of these 2 new moveset additions for Kyurem Black that massively improved it, I would say Icicle Spear is the more significant one, because just having a physical stab option for the Ice type was a huge buff for this Pokemon. That was actually its main drawback, I would say, for many years, was the fact that it didn't have that. It felt very limited as a result. It had to use Ice Beam, a far weaker special attack, or Freeze Shock Power Herb, perhaps, which is also not the most ideal option, but Icicle Spear solved this Pokemon's biggest problem and allowed it to actually be a genuine threat in Ubers for the first time. So of all the moveset additions in Gen 8, I probably think this is the highest impact one. It certainly helped that Dragon Dance was received alongside, but Dragon Dance Kyurem Black would not be that fantastic without Icicle Spear. Now Gen 9 is a generation where a lot of things received a lot of moveset additions. And in past generations, some of these would have been game changers, like Empoleon receiving Roost and Flip Turn, for example. But Gen 9 is a competitive environment where a lot of these buffs ended up not helping that much, actually. Now, the most noteworthy in my corner of the world was definitely the fact that Furret received the new option of Tidy Up, I think the number one thing fans have been requesting for decades at this point is a Furret buff. And finally they delivered, giving Furret the excellent move Tidy Up, which grants +1 attack and speed and also clears all hazards and substitutes from the field. A directly superior version of Dragon Dance, and one of the strongest new moves in the game, turning a Furret into an indescribably powerful force to be reckoned with. Just kidding, Furret is still ranked in ZU, which is the lowest tier, and it's not very good there either. But it's better than it was before, okay? It was better than it was before. You cannot deny that Furret is better than it was previously. And Furret is also considered the most powerful Pokemon in the Furret used format, where the only legal Pokemon is Furret. A much appreciated buff to Tyranitar happened in Gen 9, giving him knock off. He never had this before, and Tyranitar losing Pursuit in Gen 8 was also a big hit to him. So receiving knock off was big. Tyranitar needed something to fill that void, and Tyranitar has recently risen back up to OU in fact, partially due to the usefulness and the hard-hitting, massive stab damage that knockoff is able to achieve, of course. So Tyranitar maintaining its relevance in competitive partially due to this little moveset addition that kept it afloat, perhaps when it otherwise wouldn't have. Zamazenta receiving the move Body Press was a pretty massive deal. I can't believe it didn't get this in Gen 8, and I always forget that it didn't because it seems so obvious. The move was introduced in Gen 8, and this is the damn legendary that gives itself a defense boost, so it would seem logical to give it a Body Press. But no, they did this in Gen 9. Funnily enough, the Pokemon got worse in Gen 8 with stat nerfs and a nerf to its ability Dauntless Shield, which is no longer permanent. But the option of Body Press is part of the reason that this guy is so great in Gen 9 OU, and kind of changed the Pokemon's whole identity. I believe in VGC, it's much better than it was previously as well, even though that's not what we're talking about. It's a significant new addition over there anyway. And this is the perfect Body Press user. It receives a defense boost on switch in. It is a fighting type, and Body Press has stab damage on it. Plus it gets iron defense. So Zamazenta is the perfect Body Press user. A very big change for a very big dog. And you can definitely say that he's having his day. Galarian Slowking was already a great Pokemon in Gen 8 due to its solid stats, combination of good special attack and good bulk, and powerful Future Sight, which deals considerable damage and forces the enemy to take awkward turns as the attack happens simultaneously on another turn in the future. But Galarian Slowking got even better in Gen 9 with the new moveset addition of Chilly Reception, an all-new move in Gen 9 that is only available on Slowking and Galarian Slowking. But Galarian Slowking is the far better user of it, being a better Pokemon overall. This is a move that sets snow on the field, which is a new weather condition that has replaced hail, and then it switches you out of the field. A simple pivoting option, but a perfect thing to have on a regenerator wall to be able to pivot out. And the fact that it sets snow on the field is more useful than you would think. This cancels other weather effects, so if you're up against a sun or a rain team, snow will replace their weather and ruin their strategy a little bit. Very useful, actually, to have that backup option in anti-weather technology. And also, if you're running an ice type like Kyurem, they will benefit from the snow. Snow now offers a defense boost to ice types, and Kyurem could possibly run Blizzard, which is, of course, perfectly accurate in the snow. So you can have little snow synergy, and Galarian Slowking is probably the best snow setter in the game, actually, as a result of this move. Better even than Ninetales, Alola, and Abomasnow, who set snow with their abilities. You'd actually rather set snow with Chilly Reception, because it pivots you out to whoever you want, who can abuse the snow, and it's also just on a generally powerful Pokemon that's a great defensive pivot. This is a useful move even if your team has nothing to do with snow. It's just good to pivot out on a defensive Pokemon like this, and it's also useful in that context too. An outstanding new moveset addition for an already very good Pokemon that definitely had an impact on new snow strategies and synergies that are now possible, and momentum-based gameplay too with the reliable pivot. But I would say that the most impactful new moveset addition in Gen 9 was the addition of Flip Turn to Alamamola's moveset. This new addition turned Alamamola into a genuine top-tier Pokemon in OU, and one of the most common in the tier. Flip Turn is a move we've talked about in the Gen 8 section. It's just a water-type attack with 60 power that switches you out of the field, much like U-Turn. And we've also just talked about how powerful pivoting is on Regenerator Pokemon. Because of course it activates Regenerator and allows them to heal immediately upon pivoting. Also allows you to take a hit for an ally and safely switch into them, shielding your ally from damage. Absolutely perfect, but it's particularly good on Alomomola as well because Alomomola has Wish. Wish and Flip Turn synergize incredibly well. Wish is a move that will heal whatever is on the field next turn for 50% of the user's max HP. A fantastic move on Alomomola who has a really massive HP stat, so the flat amount of HP you're healing is great and probably higher than the Pokemon receiving the Wish. But then Flip Turn allows you to just safely pivot into whatever Pokemon you want to heal, taking the brunt of the damage on the Alomomola, healing that damage with Regenerator, and then applying the Wish to whatever you switch in upon pivoting, basically creating a very reliable cleric for your team that can Wish and Flip Turn to whatever you want for a sometimes full heal. Now, part of the reason Alomomola is viable in Gen 9 as well is because it maintained Scald as an option when a lot of other Pokemon lost this option. But I think the addition of Flip Turn really brought Alomomola together in a way that nothing else quite could have. This is the perfect thing to make Alomomola a true, excellent defensive Pokemon. And Alomomola has maintained its OU status for a very long time, truly proving itself to be one of the most improved Pokemon ever, and one of the most reliable defensive Pokemon in Gen 9 that is the backbone of many teams. This is a Pokemon that defines the pace and identity of Gen 9. For sure, it's the first time it's been OU, and it's everywhere in the tier. It's a key item on balanced teams. And that's all due to just receiving Flip Turn, bringing this Pokemon together to a significant extent. And that's it, folks. Moveset additions from every generation that had a big impact on the competitive singles meta game. Did I miss any noteworthy ones? Do you disagree with any of my choices? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching, as always.